Greetings, family. Welcome to another episode of the Grand Rising Collective podcast. It is new year, new beginnings, new things. So we are back, you all. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your questions. We are back on the place to be. So without further ado, I'm your co-host, Kyle Dixon. Have my other co-host, Kayode Bentley. Say what's up to the people, Kayode.
What's up, people? Thank you so much for joining. I'm excited about our guest today, and you're going to see why. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Indeed. And we have our new addition to our podcast, Miss Shelly Lindsay. Say what's up, Shelly, to the people. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm on mute, but that's all right. That was a grand entrance. Hi,
Yes.
everybody. Good. Well, we can't say good morning. We're supposed to say grand rising. Ashante. Wait, what is it? How do you say it? Do we say Ashante now, or we wait until we say goodbye?
No, we wait till we say goodbye.
Oh, okay. Well, hi.
All right, y'all. So look, as you see, we got the new addition here. The three makes it better. Three the magnificent. Three the hard way. All right, and we also have a special guest here today. A friend of mine, colleague. I haven't seen in a minute, but always good to see him. Mr. Jason Sidney. How you doing, Jason?
Good. Been hanging in there. There's been a lot going on since I think we last communicated, but all good. Just trying to learn and grow and manage this economy.
Indeed, family. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Some finances, some economical things that are happening for this new year, and get some tips. Get some insight on how we can navigate this thing going into this new year, because finances are huge in people's minds and concerns. So we brought Jason in here to kind of discuss some of these things financially. But before we do that, what we got to do, y'all. We got to like, share, and subscribe. This is all we're saying, y'all. We got to like, share, subscribe. All it is click that button down below, subscribe to the channel, check out our past interviews, our past discussions and conversations, some insights for you all. And, that's all we ask, y'all, for the time being. So let's get started. Let's kick it off. Brother Jason, we know that, you're into finances, into the economy, economical things. So is that something you jumped into? Is that something you got involved in at a young age? Like, what led you into finance?
Okay, but hold on, I'm sorry.
That's a good question.
Before you answer that question, Jay, I think, and not to be remiss, my suggestion is that, Jason, can you tell us, who you are, right? What you do,
okay.
Position it, just introduce yourself, and then, these questions will make sense as we're asking.
Okay, fine. Yes, my name is Jason Sidney. Yes, I have two first names. I've been involved in companies related to finance for, I would say, just over 25 years. I have a history of being on the technical side of finance, actually. I actually met Kayode at Bloomberg. So that was very interesting. And then through the years, I've jumped into another technical company that dealt with the financial connectivity. That was Tradeware, but now it's called SS&C. They got brought out. Then after that, I jumped to Wachovia, which now is Wells Fargo. Then after that, did a little stint at Morgan Stanley. Then Morgan Stanley had let me go. So then I ended up I'm kind of going through my resume, I guess. So then after Morgan Stanley, they let me go, and I was at Jefferies Consulting for just about, I think, around close to 6 to 8 months. And then I got the opportunity to go into JP Morgan. So I've been now at JP Morgan for over 11 years. I work on the technical side of finance, fixed onboarding. So I onboard clients to test DMA orders, direct market access, it's called, algorithms, and also care orders, which is large orders being sent to the desk. Specifically, I work in the futures and options and futures markets, which that's a whole nother discussion to explain what that is. But basically, I'm in that area. It's like a level higher than equities. So if you have questions on that, we can get into that. And then personally, like, I play basketball on Sundays to kind of keep myself, to kind of de-stress. I go to the gym, work out. I've been tasked with checking my blood pressure a lot, so I was actually checking it right before the call. It's not good, but so is the nature and stress. It's been a very busy week actually, and Coyote could tell you it's when I met him, reacquainted myself with him, it's been intense. I look intense. It's tough working for a large bank. There's a lot of deliverables. I'm kind of a one-man show where I am. I handle North America onboarding for clients. And I've been a one-man show for many years now. And that's what kind of elevates the stress, but I'm trying to manage it as best as possible.
Thank you, Jay. I'm sorry, Kyle. Go ahead.
No, indeed, Jay. No, you said a lot there, and no, it's interesting that you know your progression into where you're at now. It seemed like a lot of layoffs. So we always hear about like with the job market right now, what's going on, and finance industry. You would think would be very stable. So why are all the layoffs? And again, and I'm not trying to get in your business, but I'm just trying to get an idea of like, you know, because you seem reputable and you do a great job of what you do. So it's like, why would they have to lay you off to go to another financial institution?
So kind of a correction. I've actually been involved in one layoff, which was the one
Okay.
at Morgan Stanley.
Mhm.
So thankfully I've been able to transition into jobs. As opportunities came up, I was able to jump into different jobs. Morgan Stanley was the only one that actually had a layoff. And you know, these companies, it's always about the bottom line. It's always about who is going to be kept in terms of, the direction that the firm wants to go to. Sometimes they do a massive kind of turnover because they want to streamline into a different direction. I've seen situations where management has been scaled down or kind of more streamlined. So people had directs underneath them that got moved out from them, things like that. So it's just kind of like when the executives make a decision on how they want to streamline the bank and go in certain directions. So if you're at a certain level, you really don't have say so in terms of, what you want to do and what you want to mark in your career to a degree. Um, I mean, that's why you get, some people they try to align themselves with certain executives, do certain things, put themselves in a position so that they're always counted on when changes happen, they can be, they can move into an upper level position. But the way the world is going now, things are very dynamic. Things are economically, the government's printing a lot of money very quickly. So you have a situation where your dollar value is lower, pretty much like, monthly. It's what a dollar was today is not the same what it was a year ago, 5 years ago, so on and so forth.
That is true.
So it's something that everyone has to take a look at. And money in the bank really, unfortunately, if you're saving money, just money in the bank, that doesn't do well for you, unfortunately.
Mm, mm. So, so Jason, you wow. And it's interesting you say that because, I think we all noticed that the prices are going up, but not the salaries are
Mhm.
going up. Like you
That's
said,
right.
the value of the dollar losing money. So how does that work? Because I know some people have mentioned that, but like we're talking about the value of the dollar going down because we're used to having more buying power. But like,
Mhm.
how does that look as far as you mentioning like saving money let's say stretching the dollar, right? Because
Right.
again, we're in times where people seem to have a lot of like I said, stress around, access to food, access to, goods. So what does that look like? Or how does that look as far as on the financial end?
Okay, so first of all, I wouldn't tout myself as a financial expert. I mean, I've been
Yep.
around finances, I've been on the technical side,
Mhm.
but this is more like my observations on how things are. And one of the areas that I get most of my data is from CNBC. That's the financial channel. I wake up I'd wake up on average about 4 in the morning. I turn it on. I watch the news report from the London side of things. What's going on with the economics there, and then it go transitions like from 5 a.m. into like the US markets. So I keep on top of like what companies are doing, all the news, mergers, acquisitions, anything like that, and the way that the finances are being are progressing or being manipulated, whichever way you want to say it. Now in terms of the way the dollar is, so it's a supply and demand thing. Um, Years ago, back in the 70s, we were pegged to gold. So there was an actual amount of dollars that you would print because it had to be pegged to your gold reserves. But as time went on, that got thrown out, and now the government has a license to just print money. So as they print money and put more money into the general public, then you have more availability. So because you have more availability of money, then the supply is great. So therefore, prices can go higher because there's more money to buy things, basically. So that's why you have a situation where the prices are going higher because there's just more money available. And if you notice, before years ago, the concept of being a billionaire was, such a big thing. Oh, it's a billionaire, you have $1,000 million, you're so wealthy. But now you're actually going towards the trillionaire aspect, right? And that's because there's so much money out there. I mean, if you start looking at ChatGPT and all these things, you look up Elon Musk, he has, I think, around $650 billion. I mean,
Right.
whether you look at the wealth gap, whatever have you, I mean, there's so much money out there now. It's incredible. Um, so I'm sorry not to divert from your question, but I guess
Yep.
I would say that the ability for the government to print money and the supply that's available is what's really, I think, a big part of pushing up prices. And well, COVID's another part of it too, because of all the things that happened during that time with supply and demand. And money was also given out freely during that time as well. So if you just look at the cost of goods and, what salaries meant 5 years ago as opposed to now, yeah, salary is not keeping in pace with inflation.
Mm, indeed, indeed. Wow. Wow, $1 billion, right? See, Elon Musk fit you said 650 billion, you
About
said?
650 billion. Yeah, if you look
Wow.
up the numbers, yeah. So he's going to
Wow.
set to be probably the world's first individual trillionaire, probably within the next uh, probably 2 years. Don't be surprised if it's a little faster than that, but probably in the
Mhm.
next 2 years he could be the world's first trillionaire.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, again, like you said, coming up billionaire was like a far off thing. We was talking about millionaires. Now it's billionaires. Of course, we're not seeing like entertainers and athletes and business folks reach that billionaire status. But it's still amazing to see, like you said, 1,000 and breaking it down. 1,000. You said a
Million,
thousand million,
a thousand
million,
million is a billionaire.
a
Yeah.
thousand millions. Crazy, crazy. So, so Jason, let me ask you this: like, what does your day to day look like? Because you're observing these things in the market. You're working for these firms. What is your day to day? Because I know you said you get up, you watch CNBC, which is a good thing to do. I do that as well when I when I have some time and get up in the morning, going to my school. But like, what does that day to day look like as far as managing or observing the market? Like, what does that look like for you?
Good question. So, like I said, about 4 a.m. I get up. Sometimes I get up earlier, go to the gym, then come back. So, that's my routine. I get up. I always look at CNBC, maybe a little general news, but not too much. And the reason that I look at the CNBC is because the market that I work in, futures, is considered a 23 by 5 market. When I say 23 hours, 5 days a week, more or less, for the most part. So it's constantly moving. There's always items going on in the futures market. So looking at the general market equities, that equities kind of is the base for futures in a lot of cases. So I look and see what's going on with companies. I get an idea of what's going on. It kind of helps me prep for my day. That's one of the biggest reasons I look at CNBC. I tend to get to work on average. I don't know how much nitty gritty you want to go into, but I tend to get into work around 7:45 a.m. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason when I first entered Chase, I used to get to work about 8:15, 8:30, a little 8:15 maybe. But
Mm-hmm.
I've moved that up sometimes 7:30 to 7:45. The biggest reason being because I'm a one-man show, I get a lot of assistance out of the Mumbai region. So we have
Mm-hmm.
developers in Mumbai, we have a lot of support staff in Mumbai, and I have to work with them. And the only way to efficiently work with them is to get in earlier so that I can, kind of look at certain things. In technology world, there's certain routes, like you have to take an order, you have to route it out to certain destinations. Sometimes those routes are down, so I need people to look into it, things like that. Sometimes other firms now, they're also getting resources from Mumbai. So a lot of certifications and things like that, I have to liaise with these people in the Mumbai region or sometimes even the EMEA region. So it all depends. So I try to get in a little bit early to get a lot of work done and prep in that sense. So while I'm at work, obviously it's just, focused on doing things. I have projects that I have to fulfill and things like that. So looking at the market again beforehand gives me that prep which way things are going. I know whether things are gonna, start looking good for the day or start looking bad, or, most times recently, especially with the government structure, we've had a very volatile market, quite simply. There's some days that are more volatile than others, but you'll find some heavy down days, very heavy down days, and then we'll have maybe some up days, but sometimes progressively up, sometimes up drastically. And that all depends on the news. So there's money to be made in every direction. There's money to be made when the market goes down. There's money to be made when the market goes up. There's money to be made when it goes sideways, and that's from an equity perspective on companies. That's from a futures perspective on, predicting what quote unquote the future is, what things, the way things may go. And that's also on something called the VIX, the volatility index. So there's different ways that people are making money. And the more you're educated in these ways, the better you can actually assist your personal finances. But when you do investments, when you get to that realm, it's all about discipline. So there's certain people, and I'm kind of veering a little bit. I'm going deeper in certain things, but there's certain people I follow. Warren Buffett, I follow him big. Billionaire, very slow-paced investments, but definitely a key person to follow. Obviously, the head of the firm that I work for, Chase, Jamie Dimon. I mean, these people, they say things, the market moves. I look at those two are very primary in terms of, what they say, how the market positions itself and things like that. And looking at obviously the things that are political right now, because the political movement affects the stock market greatly as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you mentioned two.
I have a question. Because you mentioned inflation is up. For me, sugar daddies are down. And so that limits our ability as baddies, beautiful baddies like myself, to find financial security. And so one of your statements that you made is that you were saying don't keep your money in the bank. Well, what would you like? You said like if you keeping your money in the bank for savings, and I know a lot of elders who are still locked in of I put my money in my savings account, and we know that interest rate is really low. And there's been some conversation around placing your money in high yield savings account, high yield checking accounts. What are some of other spaces that you are recommending for people to place their money in? Given that we are in this kind of volatile economic climate right now.
Okay, so first thing, I'll put it as a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial expert, but these are the things that I have done personally and that I would say are, it's been beneficial to me. So these are the things that I've done and that I would point to in terms of enhancing your personal wealth. So the first thing is looking at the ETFs that's done well. ETF is exchange traded funds. You can, look, you can even do this in ChatGPT. Say, you could look at the best ETFs to invest in, for instance, and it'll give you a list of ETFs. Obviously, technology ETF is really good right now because with ChatGPT and all those things, technology is the way that things are being done. A lot of companies are focused on ChatGPT and AI, so that is going to take down a lot of jobs, but it's also going to enhance the companies. So I would say the best thing to do is to be involved in that movement. Obviously, with the political sphere going on, I was even looking at me personally, I was looking at some items with oil companies. What oil companies are going to benefit from what recently happened with Venezuela? So I started looking at that. There are tons of YouTube videos with different people looking at investments that you can check into. So the other thing I would say is learn how to evaluate companies. Sorry, I'm taking off a blood pressure thing. Yeah, learn how to evaluate companies. So if you have to look at ChatGPT and say, how would I evaluate if a company is good? If you're going to invest in single companies. So me personally, I am invested in NVDA, because that is the core of AI space right now, right? When I say NVDA, that's the symbol that you can look up on like Yahoo Finance. I'm also invested heavily in Apple, but I've just been in Apple for years because Apple, I don't want to use the word, like it has a heavy following, you know. So many people have iPhones. So many things
I
are
am
going on
an
Apple.
iPhone
Right.
user.
Exactly. So
They
if
call
you
me a fruity. I am a
right.
fruity.
And the funny thing is, you know, I don't have the actual iPhone, but I have the iPod from way back. Remember we used to have
Yeah.
music on that? So since way back, I have that, and I loved Apple ever since.
Does your
But
iPod still work?
it still works. I took it with me to the gym.
What you listening to at the gym on the iPod?
Everything. So matter of fact, just so that you know, I'll show it. This is my little iPod. See?
Wow, he
Yep.
got an old school
And
iPod.
it
How do
works
you
well.
upload music on
Yeah,
there?
I actually bought it from like eBay, I think. I paid a little extra for it, but I loved it. Anyway,
How do
so
you upload music on there?
Yeah.
iTunes. I use iTunes.
Oh, it still work.
It still
Okay.
works. Yeah, all that stuff still works. Sometimes I know technology moves on, and I'm personally, I sometimes I don't move with the technologies in some cases, but I like that technology. iTunes with the iPod, you know, because I don't want to have the music on my phone and
Okay.
it drains out, whatever. Anyway, the battery drains out, I mean. In any case, so Apple, Nvidia, those are my two big ones. If you have some, let's say you have like extra money sitting in the bank, 2, 3 thousand or whatever it is, I like the Berkshire one, which is the Warren Buffett company, Berkshire Hathaway. BRK.B or BRK-B. That's the symbol for that one. As a side note, Berkshire has a dash A. Let me tell you how this is where wealth gaps come. The Berkshire dash A or dot A, whichever way you look it up, the one share I think now is about $741,000. I think it's considered one of the most expensive stocks you can get into. And there are people that have shares of that, right? So this is where you're talking about wealth. But I like the B is a lot cheaper. It's about $540 a share. But again, better than having the money sit in the bank. You put it in Berkshire, which is tuned with insurance companies. They're big vested in Coca-Cola, Apple, things like that. So that's another thing I do. Companies that invest in other companies, I look to see who they're invested in and try to get a piece of that as well. You know,
What do you
so
think
that's
about index funds?
yes, index funds, ETFs. Again, you want to look up the ones that are good yielders. See any, okay, so another thing, let's say if an ETF provides a dividend, you know, and get into dividends, but dividend basically is a piece of you get money for owning the shares. So I would take those dividends and reinvest it into that ETF or index, whatever it is, right? So that's
Yeah.
another thing you could set up on your brokerage account and things like that. Bonds used to be hot. Bonds was a big thing as well. If you're older, you know, looking at the bonds, the problem is the bond yields are a lot lower than what the stock market can give you right now. So that's the one thing with bonds. But if you want to be safer, you can actually, you know, put money in bonds as well. But the bond yields now are probably like around 3.5%, maybe 4%, depending on the kind of bonds you go into. Whereas stocks, you can kind of get 7% and up, 7, 8% up, depending on which stocks you're into.
And Jason, real quick
Mm,
with the bonds, because I know that's
yeah.
real old school. When I think of bonds, I think of my grandparents' generation. Serious, straight up. Now with the bonds, can you hold those, or is that something like that's for short term? I know you can hold them long term, but can like if you say you put in a bond for a year and you want to take it out, would it be like a penalty or can
So
you
there's different maturity on bonds. Again, not an expert on it, but
yeah.
different maturities. They have bonds that a year, 5 years, 10 years. It depends on the maturity you go into. But most of the bonds have their maturity date, and you pretty much keep that money until that maturity date. If my understanding is, if you get out of the bond earlier, you pay a penalty fee.
You do.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
bond my mom saved for me, and when I got to college, that bad boy was only worth like $500. She was like, "But I paid for college." I was like,
Right.
"No, Mama, you did. You
and
barely
and
got me
right,
here."
and but the beauty with stocks, and not to interrupt, but the beauty with stocks is that as long as, you know, depending on where you work or whatever, like I'm in finance, so I'm regulated on certain things when it comes to stocks. But the beauty with stocks is that for the most part, you can get in and get out. So if you buy a stock and you feel that you've gained enough money from it, you could sell it, right? Or
Mhm.
some people, you know, they go in, they might sell some of the shares, leave some. It depends. One example has been Palantir. Thankfully, I was able to get into Palantir on the low. That's PLTR, I think is the symbol.
I think it
But I was
is.
able to get into that on the low. It did very well. I sold some of those shares. I kept some. So
Yeah,
that's an
Palantir did very
example
well.
of them. I'm sorry?
I said Palantir did very well.
Yes, it did very
A
well.
friend of
Yeah, it's
mine
still
put me
doing
on to
well,
them.
actually, you know.
Yeah.
So Yeah, so those are examples of different investments. But the problem is if you put it in a bank is only giving you what, like 1%, 1.5% if you're lucky in
It's
a high
less.
yield savings account. Right. Yeah. Closer to the 1% area. Yeah, closer to
Yeah.
the 1% area. So yeah.
Well,
So
we
I don't want
mid
to ramble on
hour.
again.
No,
Mhm.
we mid hour. And so I think we want to switch a little bit to get to know you and how you got into finance. I would love to invite you to do one of our master classes. We recognize that you are not a financial advisor, but I think the experience and the knowledge that you bring could help many of our listeners. So when we get that going, we'd love to invite you to come out and have people ask questions, and what you can answer, great. Where you can direct them to get the resources and the answers, that would be great as well. So with us switching over a little bit, tell us, about how did you decide to go into finance? When you was a young, handsome young man,
Um,
before you start. I mean, you still handsome. I find you
oh,
handsome.
thank you.
Um,
Appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. So, and then you come with knowledge and finance. Woo! The ladies like it. But is this something that you've always wanted to do? Was to be in finance, or like did you want to be a firefighter or teacher?
It's an
What did you
interesting
want to do?
question. So I would say from this, I think I was driven from young. I'm actually West Indian. I was born in Trinidad. Um, I think the way that my personality developed is because of circumstances and environment. So my mother was a single mom. I'm one of three. I'm the oldest. And then long story short, we kind of came into the US. And it was like her struggle, my mother's struggles as a single mom. She was a nurse, and it pushed me to be like, okay, I have to be a leader. I have to take care of my brother and sister, and I had to kind of do certain things. So my mindset was a serious mindset from young. So basically, based off of that, I ended up in high school. I had reached Brooklyn Tech High School.
Mm,
So being there, that pushed a lot of things in terms of technology and the mindset was good because all the students in those kind of high schools, they want to succeed. So you always feel like you're getting pushed. And then from there, I thought my path was going to be more the engineering space. So I started off at Polytechnic University for electrical engineering. I mean, not many places to meet women there. It was one to eight, every one female for eight people and eight males at Polytech. So it was more just grinding. I started, I started with the engineering. It didn't bode well, to be honest. It was tough. My grades were bad. It just didn't seem like it was a match with me in electrical engineering. So then I ended up, long story short, I think I jumped to City Tech to try to finish up there. That's the one in Harlem. That didn't work out. So then I ended up at John Jay University for information systems. And then I completed my degree there. And that was more just like computer science, things like that. So once I got to those areas, I was working while going to school. So that gave me the area to start going into finance. And at that time, I was at that Tradeware SS&C place, and I was able to dig in, see how the brokerage firms and the banks maneuver when it comes to finances and investing and things like that. And you learn about the markets. You learn about how things move. You learn how news affects certain companies and what happens there. You learn about companies that are more stable. And like everywhere else, cash is king. So if you look up Apple, for instance, and you look at their free cash flow, I think Apple has at least around like $300 billion of free cash. So that means they can go acquire companies, they could do different things, they can invest. So when these companies that have cash, have available funds to do things, those are always good. But in terms of me, it meant, okay, so I grinded. I got a degree. I said, okay, at least I have that now. I have a bachelor's. And then from there, I just kind of pushed. One big thing I do is I observe around me. I observe my workplace. I observe other cultures, what they do, and position myself to kind of, you know, it's a copycat kind of thing, I will admit. You
mm,
follow some of the things that they do. I have friends that we talk about investments all the time. We talk about which companies we could kind of jump into, what's going on. And it's good because it creates that rapport and that, you know, honestly, wealth surrounds wealth. If you have people that are doing well, that tends to rub off on you if you're paying attention. You know, so it's like-mindedness all around. Like-mindedness in terms of progression, like-mindedness in terms of wealth and handling money, and just being able to learn and observe as you go along. So I think those things help me out a lot. And also, I have family too that's been good with investments. Like I have an aunt, she's into real estate. You know, she has a farm upstate. I help her out. You know, and she's been like a really good sounding board for me. We are sounding boards from each other. I'm teaching her how to invest in the stock market, and she's teaching me about real estate and those items there as well too.
Sydney, I think is it just me?
Jason.
I'm sorry, Jason. See, you have to switch your name around. I was dating this guy for a really long time, and
do you mind if I tell you a little bit of a Sydney notation that happened to me at one
no,
time?
tell me, because I was calling him his last name the whole time.
When I was at Wachovia, well now Wells Fargo, when I was at Wachovia.
Jason, your camera is off. We can't see your face.
Sorry. Oh, there it is.
We got to get the handsomeness on the camera.
Yeah. So.
Nope, it's still off.
Yeah, okay. It's still not coming through.
It was working before. Maybe it's just some quirk. Anyway, I have it shows on. It's just not showing. Anyway, but so what had happened was I was relaying with someone doing testing, and what had happened was they got my name wrong, and they just put in Sydney@wachovia.com. The email blasted to the entire Sydney office, Sydney, Australia. So somebody picked up the email and said, I think this belongs to you, because they looked at the email, the details in the email, and they sent me the email.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So name conventions could be dangerous.
Oh, wow. So you get a lot of people to mix up your name and call you Sydney?
It happens every once in a while. Yeah, it does happen. It does happen every once in a while.
I dated this guy and called him his last name for the first 3 months. And he said, why you keep calling me by my last name? And I thought it was his last name when it was really his first name. Things happen. But at least I was calling the right man. Is that right, Kayode? Why are you so quiet? He usually has so much to say, Jason.
Yeah, kind of a wealth of knowledge. I keep things kind of bottled up. But your circle of friends, I would to any advice, one thing I would leave, your circle of friends are very important. I've actually, through the years, I think just naturally people that weren't in line with what I was doing kind of just dissipated, or things didn't work, and then people that I keep in contact with, naturally I kept in touch with those people. Even Kayode, unfortunately, we had lost contact with each other for a little while. And it's good to know that everything is good. And I know he has some personal things going on as well, but it's good to reconnect with someone like Kayode because of who he is and his heart and purpose that he has in life. So it's good to reconnect with him.
Brother, thank you so much. You'll know where I come from. General question: when we talk about stocks and stuff like that, for a community, that goes over our head, Jay. So I'm gonna tailor this question as Shelley had us pivot. In regards to the entertainment industry, in what ways has entertainment become a tool, in your opinion, for social commentary or cultural influence in recent years, if in any way it relates to stocks and investing? Because I think one of the things I don't think I heard you mention, but we've talked offline about it, is how important investing in money and financial management is, particularly the inner city youth. If you're talking to a young person, what advice would you give them in terms of entering into the stock market? Like how would it relate to something that they connect to, which is the entertainment industry? I don't know, that's a confusing question, but
I think I get parts of it. Number one, well, maybe as a side comment, but the music isn't the same like what it used to be. That's one.
Not at all.
Definitely not.
It's hard to get good music now. It's a side comment, but
it's just a bunch of beats.
Yeah, and yeah, we won't talk about what happened, what they talk about with women and all this music. But anyway,
Oh, you don't want. Oh, look. We got to get
um,
you back on
Nah,
because
you don't
that's
want to.
for
You don't
me
want
and
to go
my
down that road.
right.
homeboy.
That's a whole different
You don't want
topic.
to. Yeah, it's a whole.
I would, to be honest, one of the big things I know, I wouldn't tout a lot of investing in single companies because of the risk. Single companies, you can have, they can, if their value goes down to zero, you lose all your money, right? But one entertainment company that I like right now is Netflix. I bought Netflix. They just did a stock split, which is a whole nother thing. Like Netflix used to be,
Okay.
I think, around $1,200 or something like that. They did a 10-for-1 stock split, meaning they'll give you 10 shares for every one share you have. So I didn't have Netflix before the split, but no, actually, I'm sorry. I bought Netflix right before it split. I'm losing money right now, but I'm still in it because Netflix, you have subscribers. You have people that watch all their movies with Netflix, Netflix's dates, all kind of stuff.
Shelly
Mhm,
wanted to know what you
mhm.
meant by Netflix and dating, and you talk about Netflix and chill. Like she want to know what's going on.
Well,
How she
yeah, I
feel.
mean, because of same set economy and how bad things are, one of the cheaper dates now is just, go chill and watch a Netflix movie, a couple of Netflix movies or something.
I
Isn't
did
isn't
not
that one of the
say
new,
it.
right? Isn't that one of the new dating parameters?
No, not anymore. That's for them young people now, and for the, as you said, or the ones that Kayode want us to hang in who can't find a job. He want us to Netflix and chill with them, and
Right, but
continue to encourage them to look for a job in the morning and chill with us in the evening.
right, but the point is there's usage, right? So that's the thing. You want to invest in companies where there's high usage. So definitely Netflix is high usage. So that's one of the things I would say there. From an entertainment perspective, like you were saying before, I don't know of other companies that has been able to reproduce a good line of growth. Like, if you look at some of the, like, maybe Paramount, there's some other ones that may be doing some things, but I know Netflix is definitely hot. And I think
And, and Jason, real quick, not
Mhm.
sorry to interject. They just did the deal with Warner Brothers. I saw,
Right, they
right?
did
That's
that,
correct.
right? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about Disney getting rid of Hulu to streamline its streaming?
I think that's very interesting as well. That, the problem right now, I think there's so many streaming choices.
Hmm.
They're trying to capture different markets like sports. Obviously, like Amazon is another good stock if you can afford it, right?
Right.
Amazon, they're
It is.
involved in so many things. I mean, if you can get past the fact that Bezos have a $500 million yacht and you still want to invest in Amazon,
Mhm.
but
So
you
I'm
know,
glad you brought that up. Here's a question, and I'm gonna try to land it because you mentioned some really good stocks, and two that really stands out to me is the Amazon stock as well as Disney, and both of them, because we're in this current political climate, took somewhat of a hit of people of color and different races and liberals, as some people would say, try to boycott. At the same time, you have these boycotts that are taking place, but then you also have the financial struggles where people are like, okay, I need to invest, right? And I'm looking at investing in these, what some people might say is hot stocks. How do you kind of balance that where you have these companies that are politically inserting themselves and supporting, policies and behaviors of different administrations? I'm not going to call out any particular administration, but they're also high usage stocks that could potentially help bring wealth into some families. Like, how do you help, individuals navigate, through those minefields of, how I'm feeling politically versus how I need to position myself financially?
it's a very good question. I'm going to take my personal view on this. And I look at it in terms of what is your end goal and your direction, right? Um, when you invest in stocks, when you do investments in general, it's about you preparing yourself for long term. It's about preparing yourself for retirement. It's about preparing yourself, to help your family or whatever have you, but your long term goals in terms of building your wealth, right?
Hmm.
Um, I understand some of the political statements that need to be made. You'd like to, you know, make a statement or Target's treating people poorly or this other company's doing this, whatever have you. But at the end of the day, these companies are raking in billions of dollars. Yes, you can have a short-term impact, but are you really going to make a dent into what they're actually doing? Do you think the actual boycott is going to change their long-term view on what they have to do? I mean, you as a consumer, you still need to eat, you still need to buy products or whatever have you. So you have to look at what effect you're actually going to have. And of course, if you pool together and you boycott or whatever have you, you are making a statement. But the statements are usually, from what I've seen, they're never usually long-term statements because you're not going to boycott these companies forever, right? If you try to boycott like a Walmart, you still need to eat. So if you go somewhere else, then you
Mm.
deal with the other places' prices, right? And quite honestly, if you improve yourself from a financial perspective, I think personally you can make a bigger dent long term if your finances are in order, as opposed to actually saying, well, I'm going to make a statement for a short term period of time to try to affect the company. Again, my personal opinion, because at the end of the day, if you get your credit cards right, you get your credit cards down to zero. If you improve your credit score, you know, if if you have money invested in the markets and things like that to get you and your family in a better position, then you can do certain things. You know what I mean? Who's to say that you can't come collectively and make your own business if possible, right? Make your own stores or do different things. And even that's been a challenge to have your own business. But you can do different things. Maybe there's a possibility in real estate, getting something in real estate, things like that. But you can plan yourself, I think, more effectively if you build your wealth as opposed to trying to withhold spending money at a certain place. Now you can reduce the amount that you spend, get your necessities and things like that, and I think still make a decent statement. But if you go cold turkey to me never really lasts long.
Mm. So it's deep that you say that, because what I'm initially was coming to mind is the Montgomery boycott, right? I think this Montgomery, the bus boycott was
Bus
Montgomery.
boycott. Yeah, Montgomery bus
So
boycott.
hold on. I don't think you're gonna hear your
He
question.
he dropped off, but this is a good conversation for us to talk about at the next one, because we're always talking about here on our platform about young people and what they're being exposed to and the things that they're doing. And Jason said something that immediately come to mind. He didn't necessarily say this, but the effectiveness of boycotts today,
Mm,
right? Because he was like, it's short term, but we saw, in the 60s and the 50s and so on and so forth, where boycott made a difference, where we hold big companies accountable for their actions, and they made a shift. Even when we look at like affirmative actions in DEI, and now where we are is, in some ways I do agree with him that it is a short term statement. Target didn't go out of business,
mhm.
right? They yes, they remove the CEO, but he still sits on the board. He's just not the head of the board,
Correct.
right? So there are some impacts, but realistically, it's like, what is now in lieu of a boycott to really hold companies accountable for their actions and their behaviors? And are we looking at this as we're holding companies accountable for individuals' political beliefs? Right, because you have a whole. If I'm thinking about Target, I have a friend and she still shops at Target all the time. And at one point, I was like, "We're boycotting Target," and she was just like, "But which I don't realize is there is about 200,000, and she was exaggerating the number, but 200,000 Black people who work for Target." And again, I'm exaggerating the number so people won't be like, "Is she serious? 200?" But my point being is, she was like, there's still Black people that are working at Target. There's still brown people who are working at Target. So when you're
Yeah.
holding your dollars, you are impacting individuals who this is their job, right? Jason mentioned even Walmart, like where my godmother lives. Walmart is the big place. Like
It is the
it is
place.
the
Yeah.
yeah, it I mean, when I go in there, it looked like a whole shopping center, to be quite honest, with the way that no, seriously, like they have a whole makeup counter and everything. Like, I was like, oh wow. So it's like, can that town really boycott that Walmart? Can Black and brown people within that area really boycott that Walmart? And it's going to make a difference because, to his point, it limits resources. Unfortunately, it's kind of like they got us, in this situation. And so I'm just kind of thinking about, as we're having this conversation and as we get ready to wrap up, is what's in lieu of boycotts now? Like, how are we managing holding companies accountable? Nobody's holding Tesla accountable. Like, he's still back on the scene. Like, he left and then he came back. We thought it was going to shut down. He left and he came back. You have a celebrity who just bought her son a Tesla, and you like, listen, he is outright in his own way, like, I'm a Nazi in his own way. He is just like, I support white. At least, let me say this: how I interpret his behavior of, and I'm talking about Vader Zen, how I'm interpreting his behavior, and retweets, actions, and statements that he have made. I feel like he is supporting white supremacy. He might not feel that way. A lot of people might feel like he is uplifting the white race, and to each his own. I don't feel like there's one better than the other. But I feel like, Jason, as you left us for a second, I was saying how what you said made me think about the effectiveness of boycotts. Whereas, previous years and centuries and decades, whatever, they made a difference. Now they're not. So what is the in lieu of, a boycott? But we are 2 minutes to time.
Okay, I just on your final point there, I would personally say that you're not going to you can't make a difference until you get into the creative sphere, right? Like, being consumers, you're always going to be beholden to the makers of every, car companies, food, this, that, whatever. As a consumer, you're always going to be purchasing. If you get to a point where you can now collectively pool resources and get to a different thing, in other words, all right, fine. I know people love Tesla, things that or whatever, those type of things. But if you pool your resources and say, okay, is there a car company that we can invest in or look to purchase or be in line with that better serves our values and can create a vehicle that we would rather purchase or steer funds towards purchasing because we don't like this other company or whatever have you. I think that is something that is a better usage and will make a better dent, because at the end of the day, all these companies are looking at sales. All these companies are looking at revenue and what they're doing. But if you make your statement to say, well, you know what, I think we can look into something, create our own, or in line ourselves, with investing in another company that's going to do something, then that's going to me, make a larger statement. But when you have the owner of so said Tesla, that's $650 billion, are you really making a dent? You know what I'm saying? There's so much money circulating. Are you really, really doing anything?
Agreed. And that's where we come to the collective, the Grand Rising Collective.
Yes.
So let me interject real quick, because I think Jason made a valid point, and you did as well, Shell. So I think, and this is what I led to, Paul, and I know we're short on time. So Jason, just so you know, we do a part 2. We got a whole list of y'all. We're going to do a part 2 to the interview on.
Yeah.
So much information we can't get done this time frame. But Shelly, to your point, and Jason, I think you'll confirm with this is why we as a community has to learn financial management, and we have to learn investments in stocks, because that's the only voice they're going to listen to. Like you said, the boycotts, they had their effect years ago. They're not in effect anymore because we're consumers. Like Jason said, we depend on them anyway for our livelihood. But I think what companies listen to is they listen to their stockholders. So if we pool our money together, because we're $1 billion community anyway, we make billions of dollars. The unfortunate thing is that it doesn't circulate within our community more than an hour. It's out of our community no sooner than we make it. I think if we channel our money and our resources to investing in these companies, we'll have more of a say in how they operate. We'll have more of a say in who they hire. We'll have more of a say. We'll have more power. In essence, as I land my plane and bring it to the gate, if we as stockholders decide to pull our money out of that company, I guarantee you'll see more of an impact and change in how they operate, as opposed to boycotting and picking in fences outside of one store in one state in one county. As a stockholder, your voice will carry longer and have more of an impact. That's my
and sorry, not to interrupt, but remember this: with the way that the stock market goes, if you get a pool of people that say, you know what, I'm just going to sell my shares in Tesla or whatever have you, that reverberates around to the bigger institutions. And once they start seeing a decline, people tend, institutions or whatever, they'll tend to pull their money out because they don't want to lose money. So if you have a big enough impact, then yeah, you can actually trigger, certain conditions, for volatility.
Indeed. Indeed.
Well,
Okay.
Jason, thank you for showing up this morning. We know that you are working on work-life balance. So I really pray and hope you get your blood pressure together. We are in,
Trying.
yeah, no trying, you're doing. Um, no, he is. He's doing. Every day he goes to the gym, he checks his blood pressure, he takes his medicine. You're doing, and you will definitely get there. So I appreciate you showing up and giving and giving us some knowledge. I took some notes on things that I need to do in some stocks in lieu of a sugar daddy to help me be financially sound.
Yeah,
There
and
you go.
yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. My name Jason Space Sydney, SYDNEY. As well as email is sydnjas@aol.com. Yes, I still use AOL.
I
We
was
have
like,
stock in AOL too.
No,
right,
no, that one no.
right. You know something we don't? I'm like, okay.
Right, right.
Back tip. So, family, you got some good information. But before we leave out, Jay, I got to ask a question that I typically ask of all our guests here on the podcast. So it's like a top 5 question, but it's pertaining to like what you do and what your skills are in. So top 5 or your best 5 ways for folks to begin investing in their future from your
Research. I would definitely say research. Start by, definitely looking at CNBC, that cable channel. If you don't have it, try to get it. It's really important. I've been looking at it for years. It's helped me with my investments and strategic planning for wealth. I would say also communication skills. You want to be able to communicate. It sounds counterintuitive, but actually to be able to communicate, to talk, be able to meet people that are movers and shakers. You never know, who you can involve yourself with or whatever. So I think communication is pretty important. I would also say, taking a look at how the industry has changed, how AI is going to help the markets and help companies and align yourself with that, improve your skill set when it comes to technology. Now, AI can do automated programming for you and things like that, but just utilizing the tools can actually help you put you in a different position, get you a different job, those type of things. So I think AI components are, learning what they do, how they do it is important there. What is that? 3?
That's 3.
Um, all right. The fourth thing is to align yourself with people that are like-minded. If you're progressing and you're moving forward, you want to get those people that are in line with you. Unfortunately, it's hard to shake family if they're not in line with you, but definitely reduce your exposure to people that are going against your goals and what you're doing. And also health. I mean, we talk about it a lot. You can't, enjoy your funds and enjoy investment if you're not healthy. So, me personally, I've been watching what I eat, when I eat, and going to like the gym and things like that, and managing those stress levels. So I would say those are my top 5.
Indeed. Those are on point. All on point. Yes, indeed, my brother. Very good strategies, very simple strategies that we can all apply immediately. You know what I'm saying? So, because I know you mentioned a lot, and again, like Kayode said, like Shelly said, we're gonna have a part 2. We're gonna have a master class for those who are very interested and want to get a little more detailed. So we're gonna get that together, family, and make sure that you all have access to that. And
And
definitely want you to join, definitely want you to subscribe. So, Jason, we appreciate you, brother.
sure. And I would just, sorry to interrupt. I would tout there's some YouTube videos that I love looking at. One of the groupings is like Minority Mindset. That's a really good video stream. This guy really talks about investing and personal finances and things like that. I love it. There's another one like I forgot what it's actually called, but I can send it to Coyote, but it's like Axel Life or something like that. Like they talk about, building wealth and things like that. There's one other guy, he used to be in the system, in the jail system, and now all he does is invest. that's really good. I could get you,
Yeah,
that one as
definitely
well.
send the list
Yeah, I'll
to
send a list.
Kayode, and then we can upload it the links at the bottom of this video.
Okay. Yep. Sure.
Kayode, you want to close? You want to say peace to the people before we
I hate that
close it
silence.
up?
You still got to put
Close
that
it
silence.
out.
And we
You
don't
know
even
what I'm
see
saying?
Jason. Yo, Jay, we ain't got this video do the
Yeah, I
three
know.
times. So we're gonna do the
J-
3, 2, 1, and Jason again. Before I even do that, brother, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're very busy, and at short notice, you did show up and you did show out. Very informative, brother. Thank you so much, and we'll be in contact after this. So before going any long-windedness, we're gonna do 3, 2, 1, family. We appreciate you. So 3, 2, 1, we're gonna do peace on the count of one, whatever. 3, 2, 1,
Peace.
peace.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Baby, yeah. You know, say, ready on this. You know, I have patience.